Okay. Hey, so whereabouts are you?
I'm in Fremantle. This is the studio behind me where we do all of our Eskies work, and yeah, and this is my headquarters. Whereabouts are you talking from?
I'm in Brisbane.
Okay,
Sunny,
cool.
sunny Brisbane. One second, I'm just going to shut this door.
No worries.
Okay. So wow, I just watched the clip for the first time. Made me very
Hmm.
nostalgic for the 90s. Um,
Yeah,
I was only 10 in 95, so it was a lot of like hottest. I grew up on my brother's Hottest 100 CD, so
yeah, fantastic.
you guys have definitely been part of my upbringing, particularly the footage from Recovery. What were some of your
Yeah.
favorite memories of that period?
Well, my favorite memory of recovery was that, like, I guess, we live in a world now where people are just so media savvy. People are creating content, they're doing all the things. Whereas in those days, like, we rocked it. We got asked to do recovery because Sweater had got on the radio and it was a hit on Triple J. So they were like, "Oh, do you guys want to come in and do things?" They probably sent us a letter or something to do it. But yeah, we got booked and we got there, and if you see the footage, there's these kind of giant, big pictures behind us of because on the we hadn't there was no like press photos out or anything. There was just the CD that we'd put out with the EPF Sweater, and we'd gotten these images from a knitwear catalog, and we'd put in Cav, Stu, and Joel. So they thought that that was the members of the band, and so they put these giant pictures of them up behind us. And when we got there, we are just like these like spotty 18-year-olds, and they were like, "So who are you guys?" And we're like, "We're Eskimo Joe," and they were like, "Who are these guys?" And we're like, "Oh, they're from the knitwear catalog where we got all of the where we got the artwork from." So yeah, that I mean, and recovery was such a powerful thing back in those days. It was this beautiful moment in the kind of mid to late '90s where you had Triple J coming up, everyone was tuning into that. Record labels, all over the world were starting to, make big budget indie albums. You had bands like Sonic Youth making huge records, and of course, all the other guys. And then you had Recovery, and you every morning. I don't know if this kind of fits into your memories of that time, but you'd wake up every morning and you'd switch on the TV, and there'd just be some like really cool, like super indie international or local band playing, doing a live thing on ABC, and it was huge, and it really lifted live music. So we put out the CD Sweater, thinking that we would sell what we'd call Perth Gold, which was like 500 CDs, and playing at this place called the Grosvenor Back Room. But because of shows like Recovery, we rocked up and the whole thing sold out, and you could do an all ages gig every weekend because everyone wanted to feel like they were at Recovery. So it was a really cool moment in time.
Was there any indication that was it Angus? Didn't the enforcer turn out to be Angus
Yeah,
Sampson?
yeah, yes. Yeah, it's pretty wild that all that group of people were there doing that. And Lee, what's her name, who was the
Lee
movie review
Winnell.
guy? Yeah, he went on to do the Saw movies. I mean, like, what an amazing little hive of humans. I mean, I still run into Jane Gazzo all the time because she was the first person to play us on Triple J. So we didn't win Unearthed or any of those things. Like, none of that existed. But she, the Sweater CD, appeared on her desk, and she played it and was like, just started to play it on her show late at nights, and it took off. So we can thank Jane Gazzo for actually probably having a career at all.
Um, I saw you guys at the Spring Loaded Festival, and
Mm.
you were. I remember you saying, "How good is the hair? Good. If the hair's good, the show's good." Right?
That's right.
I have to ask, dude,
Yeah.
what deal with the devil did the three of you guys do to have such great hair at your
I think
age?
maybe it's the only reason why we're still a band. If we had have lost all the hair, it would have been like, well, the band's over. But no, I don't know. We're just lucky, I guess. Yeah, we've all managed to keep our hair, and we're all into our middle age now. So I think that good hair on stage goes a long way.
It got me thinking because I've seen, I think, three Spring Loadeds now, and I just love it because it's just this incredible
Mm.
time capsule. And I find myself wondering, like, I hope that the kids of today in 30 years' time are going to have something like that, where bands like Thornhill or Alpha Wolf are going to be coming out all grey haired and scraggly, and
They yeah, look, I think they will because I mean one of the things that we've really felt, and Spring Loaded was a really great example of this, is that we're kind of living through this period. Just we're a couple of years shy of being around for 30 years as a band, and we are really feeling like when we go out now, we're no longer cool or uncool. We're just this kind of Eskimo Joe shaped hole in the music industry. So we have people from all ages. At the Spring Loaded Festival, you could see young kids who would have been like 5 or 6 when Black Fingernails was playing on the radio, and then you've got people who are in their 60s and 70s who were kind of in their 30s when Sweater first came out. So it's wild that we have this huge range of people getting into our music, and I think it's just about if you can stay a band for long enough, and there's so much in that. If you can just keep doing it, then you'll have fans, down the track who love you and forget whether you were cool or uncool. And I think that that'll happen for every generation. I'm sure. I mean, we all talk about it must be tough for bands these days because they don't have that same machine where there's records that can sell or any of those kinds of things, but I think great bands will continue to come along. People will continue to become fans of those bands, and in 30 years' time, we'll all still rock up to watch them play again. I mean, I remember when the Pixies toured again. I was a huge Pixies fan, and they would have been probably the age I am now when I probably first got to see them reform and play again, and it was a huge deal. And they're still doing it. The Pixies are still out playing shows because people still love their records. So, yeah, it'll still happen. Don't worry, Tom. It's going to happen.
I've had some gig experiences recently where it's occurred to me that I have just given up trying to predict what the kids are into today, because I went and saw Limp Bizkit at last December, and I shit you
Yeah, we,
not,
we
half
played at
the
that Good Things
you
festival. I
did.
don't know if you saw the sideshow, but yeah, we were at the Brisbane Good Things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this was at the sideshow at the Fortitude Valley Music Hall, and I was blown away. Half of the crowd was about
mm,
20, like 2021. I'm like,
yeah.
were you even thought of the last time these guys put out a major album?
I think that's a really good example of this idea of what's cool and uncool. Like Limp Bizkit came up at this kind of, I would say, dark period of music where you had stuff like new metal and these kinds of titles, and they were kind of part of that bunch of bands. And then new metal became so uncool. Like who the hell would want to be in a new metal band? And now Limp Bizkit have been around long enough, and obviously managed to get along enough that they can come out now. And these 21-year-olds don't give a shit at what was cool or uncool. They're just like, yeah, it's Limp Bizkit. I know that song.
Yeah,
So if you can just pull it off, if you can just stay together as a band long enough, then you kind of come into this purple patch, which I'm sure all those kinds of bands are right now.
the line in the first time about cigarettes
Mm.
absolutely killed me. When did you quit, and what else do you think you wish you could get away with like you used to when you were in your 20s?
Look, I think I gave up cigarettes pretty early. I mean, I kind of dabbled as a teenager, as we all did, and then by the time I was about 19, I was out of there. I decided I wanted to be a singer, but in saying that, I have smoked weed my whole life, and so it was arguable whether I ever gave up. But you can kind of see there's a piano just behind where there's a double bass, and behind that curtain there's a piano. We were sitting there, and I was thinking about this idea of like, I think the line first started as like, I used to smoke cigarettes, now it was kind of something about puffing vapes or something. And I was like, there is nothing cool in that line about singing about vapes, but I'm going to keep the cigarettes part. And I sat at the piano and I just kind of came up with that initial chorus, and I recorded it on my phone and sent it to the guys and was like, how about this for a chorus? And kind of off the song went. But as far as that kind of that subject that emerged out of it, you know, I guess it's a time we really wanted to write something nostalgic because we'd been playing a lot of these shows that we were talking about where it was all about nostalgia. And we were like, we need to write something that is for this crowd because we're playing to these people, and that's such a tangible thing, like the Good Things Festival. You go out there, you're in front of 30,000 people, and everyone's singing your song back at you. You kind of want to bottle that feeling and turn it into a song you can just play back at them again, and that's where a lot of the theme came from, a lot of the energy came from for the song the first time. But as far as things, I mean, again, it's like the whole song's about looking back at that time and going, yeah, I used to smoke cigarettes, but I don't do that anymore. And you might even have like a nostalgic thing of like, oh, wasn't it nice when we smoked cigarettes instead of vapes? No, it was actually kind of shit. Cigarettes are really smelly, and I'm glad that we don't all smoke cigarettes anymore. But yeah, you look back at these kind of moments in your life through rose-colored glasses, and you forget all the complexities that came along with them.
It's like people forgetting about the sheer amount of boredom from the 90s. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
boredom was great. Boredom's how I
yeah.
wrote 90% of my music. So, bring on boredom, I say.
It got me thinking about the nature of art. Like, when is a song done? Like, have you ever been tempted to change a song after you've released it?
Yeah, we did it once, and I think it was a terrible idea. We did like a kind of a remix of a song, and I think at that point in time, I mean, we were just in a weird headspace as a band, but I think the idea was like, well, this we could have written a better chorus, so let's write a chorus, and then we put this chorus in there, and I listen back, and it just feels like overcooked is the word, and I think that's if you the question about whether a piece of art is done or not. I mean, there's lots of kind of factors involved there. You have your craft. When we made our first record, we did it with a guy called Ed Buller. He'd made a few Australian records. He did a Ben Lee's Breathing Tornadoes, and he did the Super Jesus second record, Jet Age. And he was a really great song craft guy. And so we had all these songs we thought we were genius. We're geniuses. And then he came in and he would do this thing where he'd be like, we'd play the song and he'd suddenly like, and we're just like pouring our heart out singing, from this real experience, and he'd be like, I'm bored, you're boring me, and we'd be like, what? And really what he was trying to say is that I think that idea of like, when is art finished, to how does the craft fit into that? It's that like our job as songwriters is to keep the listener's attention, and as soon as that attention wavers, like they skip the song on the playlist, they change the record or whatever, you've lost them. And really, the trick is to be objective enough when you're creating this art that you are like, oh, okay, my mind's wandering, we need to do something else here. And so that becomes, in a band situation like Eskies, where we've been doing it for years, we used to have that conversation so much. We don't need to do it so much anymore because we kind of know all the things that we do. And we do the thing where we go to the thing. But there is a point where you have to put the paintbrush down. You have to walk away from it. And a lot of the time that's a blurry line of where that is, because you can keep tinkering with something forever. And so my big belief on art of when it's finished or not finished is all about deadlines. You need to set yourself a deadline. And once you get to that deadline, you can extend it a little bit, but you can't just, perpetually be creating this thing. Otherwise, it'll drive you insane. And I know that because I've got songs that I've never set a deadline for, and I'm still convinced that it's going to be a great song. But the more I rework this song, the more overcooked it gets.
Dear. Mate, this has been awesome. Thank you very much for your time. I'm so glad I've got a chance to speak with you. And
Well,
all the
you got
best.
to speak to the better Eskimo. You could have been speaking to Joel, and that would have been terrible. But you got me, so that's
And
great.
there's the quote. Excellent. Have a good one, mate.
Thanks, Tom. Cheers.